2023 has been a year of big releases so far. WRC, Forza Motorsport, the Crew Motorfest, and the list goes on. We were really treated this time, right? In my opinion, a lot of opportunities were left untouched. Again, to my surprise, it was a game that nobody really had on their radar, which made me realize that. Super Wooden GP2. If you want to know what made this game so special and in which category this indie title outperformed all other AAA titles, then stay tuned when I give you the 5 things all racing games can learn from Super Wooden GP2. And with that, welcome back to OverTake. The year is almost done, and as I mentioned, we had a lot of big releases up to this point. Super Wooden GP2 is not one of them. This top-down indie racer was created in a one-man production by a developer called Vijuda. It is the successor to Super Wooden GP1 and entails a classic car game. Win races, cars, and upgrades, customize, and win some more. While that in itself does not seem like a big revolution of the racing game genre, other parts did sport a bit more promise. The first thing other racing games can learn from Super Wooden GP2 is a lesson in nostalgia and how to combine it with modern day games. As you may have seen, Super Wooden GP2 is an asymmetrical top-down racer like those of the past. Of course, the miracles of modern technique make everything still look the part and help with the dynamics of the camera, etc. But this is secondary to what I tried to convey here. Throughout the whole game, we can see obvious tributes towards Gran Turismo. For example, with this neatly built world map when you boot up the game, or the upgrades to the cars, which go as far as minute details like the oil change, a feature that has had presence in Gran Turismo since the early days. All this combined with the nostalgic view, some of the classic gameplay, and a step away from multiplayer is definitely sending a message to those trying to capture the spirit of the past. Because unlike franchises like NFS, which tried multiple times to recapture Underground, Super Wooden GP2 is not actively making their product worse by trying to be vintage. A matter of style and direction is the difference maker here. Some of our videos really are the difference maker when it comes to knowing all about sim racing. So be sure to give this video a like, this channel a sub, and this bell a hit so you're always in the loop whenever something like this drops. But back to Super Wooden GP2. Legacy gameplay and content may not be the direction every franchise should take, but if they do, it would certainly be better to integrate it in a fun and charming way, not forced to capture some of the older player base back. A way in which you could also do that is by our next point. Our next thing racing games can learn from Super Wooden GP2 is that the game actually feels awesome on handheld. Wait, what did I say? Aren't we all on the same page that racing games don't belong on handheld devices in 2023? I see you nodding, but why is that? Inarguably, the times of the Nintendo DS and PlayStation Portable are over, and with it, some super fun franchises have vanished, moved to mobile, or made way for more powerful games. But the new generation of handheld consoles like the Switch or the Steam Deck offer really powerful solutions, which kind of nobody has yet tried to fulfill. I recently had the chance to play a bit with a Steam Deck and through the first racing game that I found to be fitting on there, which was Super Wooden GP2. And what can I say? It was great. I am sure it wasn't the main purpose behind the development, but it reminded me of how a whole untapped market is basically being ignored because of whatever reason. I mean, I kind of get it. The trend of racing games goes towards realism, and many don't even feel good on gamepad anymore. So it is obvious that nobody should or would try ACC on a Steam Deck and expect perfect performance. But to have no representative of racing games at all, with the exception of Art of Rally maybe, that has their hands on these consoles, is sad in my eyes. Obviously, the perspective helps a lot, with Super Wooden GP2 being top-down. But who says that future racing games cannot have modes designated specifically for handheld devices? Revive the project. I mean, you're all trying to bring back split screen, then maybe give this revenue path a shot as well. I think it could lead to great innovation. Innovation is especially important if you release a successor title like Super Wooden GP2, and that's exactly the content of our next point. I feel like something we have forgotten as racing game fans is that newer titles of a series can and should be better than their predecessors. With Super Wooden GP2, this is the case. While in development for the better part of 2 years, the second part of the Super Wooden GP series is more advanced in almost any department compared to its older brother. Gameplay, graphics, possibilities, and options, as well as progression and scope, have all made a step forward with this title. And that is a nice difference to the rest of the market, may may I say. From my memory, a lot of the numbered series shine with advanced graphics or a new mode from time to time. And if there are significant improvements in the series, it usually takes a good chunk of years for the game to release, see Forza Motorsport. However, the mission of Super Wooden GP2 was clear, it seems. Make a better game than their first iteration, which is the case, I can say. And while that maxim is admirable, it seems to be something mostly indie devs are putting stock into, more than the big releases we get every year or biannually. Pardon, especially the ones releasing every year. Having done multiple videos about this topic, I won't try to bring it up that much again. But it is pretty telling how a single person can find so many avenues to better their product, while F1 is scrambling every year to release an up-to-date track list. If you are creating a series, there should be improvement visible, not just after the eye test, but also after the playtest. Don't just add a number and have the first game always be better than the rest of the bunch. I did already mention the scope of Super Wooden GP in development. Let's take another look there. One thing that consistently amazes me about Super Wooden GP2 is the use cost parameter of the title, and this is simultaneously the third thing other racing games can learn from this game. Have I mentioned that this is a solo production? Let that sink in. While other studios feature quite massive teams when it comes to racing games, some of the titles exiting said studios still seem kind of heartless at times. With Super Wooden GP2, you know it is all made in meticulous and hard work. But it is not the fact that this is done by one person which amazes me, but it is the absolute superb usage of resources when you look at the end product. Everything seems to be exactly tuned to the fact that the workforce is limited, but it matches the scale and there are clever workarounds for some topics. You want your own music, for example? Well, go ahead. Drag those files into the game and have them playing. This way you forego a lot of licensing and audio hustle and give players the chance to customize as much as they want. To put this into perspective, you often have the feeling big releases could have done so much more with the resources at their disposal. Of course, no racing game has a Bethesda-like team working on it in terms of scale, but still many more people are involved usually, and the end product doesn't always reflect this. By no way do I want to say that all racing game devs are lazy and all people working there just wait around and pick their noses instead of working. But when I see what a single person can bring to the table, I sometimes wonder where all those big releases left their working hours when their games have some major problems. And that brings us to our last and possibly most important point. The final thing Super Wooden GP can teach other racing games is not exclusive to it, but unfortunately more relevant than ever. The game works. It really works, and that on release, amazing. It seems to be a forgotten craft to have your product up and running whenever it sees the light of day. Be it unimaginable graphics issues that plague some title, frequent crashes, or whole game engines being half-baked, 2023 has presented us racing game players with a multitude of challenges for patience. Let me pick the two most prominent examples I can think of with very recent history: Forza Motorsport and WRC23. The first of the two had an interesting time post-release. Leaving aside the undisputed quality of the title, some parts of the game were really bugged, and I mean really bugged. So much so, the first patch eliminated 150 of those bugs. With WRC, you had less bugs, but a completely unplayable game for a lot of people due to its stuttering and graphical issues. This has largely been fixed for, well, most people, but it hasn't gone unnoticed on the socials and certainly hasn't gone undiscussed. None of those things happen in Super Wooden GP2. Of course, this is a much lower scale project, but the point still stands. The game doesn't combust randomly every few minutes, things are largely running smoothly, and there is no major issue which hampers your fun of the title. I know we are a channel orientated towards working on sim racing, but if you know anything about city skylines, then you know this is not exclusive to us either. So maybe the devs can learn a bit from the smaller ones, cross their T's and dot their I's, and give us playable games from now on. And I mean, from the point of release. Thankfully, WRC23 has gotten a lot better. That's why watching videos like this one about the 7 best real-life stages is not a waste of time, but rather an enrichment. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, cheerio.